Eagles. Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Tuesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, following Memorial Day weekend as we get prepared to kick off the Eagles OTAs this week. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, brother? Back in the mix, John. One day off is enough to make me feel a little rusty.
Yeah, I'm rusty. Phase 3. Happy Phase 3 day. Hope everybody had a little bit of a rest and took some time to thank the people that deserve to be thanked so we can talk football every day. We're going to have some on-field action. Reporter's not going to be down there today, but, state-run media will have some stuff for you. So keep an eye on eagles.com. And all around the league, I think there's, 20 teams starting their on-field OTAs today. So all around the league, you're going to be seeing a lot of people on the field.
Yep, good stuff there, Johnny Mac. As you pointed out on Memorial Day, I heard something nice that I wanted to share with everybody. I went to a Memorial Day service yesterday in Cape May, and there was a veteran speaking, and he just said, people always say Happy Memorial Day, and that doesn't sit right with me.
I hate that. I don't. I never say that.
So he said to me, though, to the crowd, he said, let's say I hope everybody has a peaceful Memorial Day. And I thought that was much better. So I just wanted to share that with all the great people here on JAKIB Sports, on JAKIB Nation. Great to see our Birds 365 people back in the chat. We're getting closer to Eagles football, everybody. OTAs kicking off, John. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the salary cap a little bit. You mentioned they're on the field today, tomorrow, and Friday. Now, you guys are set to be in the room potentially tomorrow, but that's a little tentative at this point, John?
Not official yet. Yeah, most likely. Problem is it's going to rain, as it has been locally. Yeah. And there's 90 people, and if they have to go inside, and their bubble's not very big, so that could complicate things. But 90% certain we're going to be down there tomorrow for OTAs, and they only have to open up one of the cluster of 3, and that'll be next week as well. Eagles only have 2 sets of 3. They're only using 6. They could use 10. And then they have minicamp, 1-day minicamp. So, most likely tomorrow.
Most likely tomorrow. So that'll be Wednesday media availability. We'll see if Johnny Mac's out there with the umbrella in the rain. All right, out there. John, what are your top storylines coming into this thing, man? I think there's a lot of good stuff to watch, but what is John McMullen specifically focused on? I think when I think about it, I think edge rusher, I think corner, and I think safety as well. I think those are the 3 obvious ones, but edge rusher's obviously top of the list there. Is that you the same, or what are you thinking about as we go into OTAs here?
Well, I wrote about each position over at SI. Everybody can check out my first impressions. The problem, there's certain positions, running back, on offense, offensive line, defensive front, tougher to gauge until you get the pads on. So from them, I describe it as more of a 7-on-7 philosophy. So more concerned about, the skill position players, the quarterbacks, the cornerbacks, the secondary, a little bit linebackers in coverage. More of a 7-on-7 process because there are no pads. And the physical positions, for lack of a better term, not that you can't be a physical safety or something of that nature, but the places where you have to be physical, like A.J. Dillon, he's an interesting story because he missed last year with the stinger issues, and he's this big, powerful running back. Well, you're not going to be able to see his power until the pads come on. Last year, Saquon Barkley at OTAs, you can go back to it. Nobody was like, all right, can't see it at running back. Because you don't have that opportunity to show the physical aspect of the game. Same with the offensive line, same with the defensive front. So, one of my predictions was I think Azeez Ojulari is going to be a big story in the spring because of his athleticism and his movement skills. He's probably going to stand out. But again, the big test will come later with the pads. And, when Lane Johnson's got pads on, there's a big difference.
Azeez Ojulari is a different man on the field when Lane Johnson's got pads on. No doubt about it. Johnny Mac.
Everybody is. I'm not picking on Azeez. Everybody.
No, yes, it is everybody, including the top in the game. So no doubt about that. I'm looking forward to getting some football though today. And it'll be state-run media, but I am looking forward to seeing the guys and the team back on the field out there. John, one thing I want to talk about, and we already got some super chats about it, so we're going to have to hit on it. I'll read the super chat about it. Is the what the league is talking about when it comes to the salary. And now banning void years. The NFL likes the Eagles, though. So Brian being a little bit joking there, saying he thinks you're wrong, that the NFL hates the Philadelphia Eagles, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, I've been around Philadelphia to understand the victim mentality. I wrote about this yesterday. One of the reasons people know about it is because I wrote about it, and really it stems from Jason Fitzpatrick of Over the Cap, who is on top of these things when it comes to the salary cap. Jason Fitzgerald, I always, not Fitzpatrick. For some reason, I always default to Fitzpatrick, but I digress. So anyway, Jason pointed out the explosion in voidable years. Eagles are credited with a lot of that because of their success. But if you look at it again from a more objective standpoint, not a pumper standpoint, 26 teams use voidable years now. The increased number from 2013, to give you the example, 8 teams use voidable years. The total voidable money on those 8 teams in 2013 was $40 million, just over $40 million. You fast forward to 2025, 26 teams are using them. The total voidable money in those years is over $2 billion. 2 with a B. So the point is, the vast majority of the league, the point is it's increasing salaries. So what do rich people do when salaries are increasing? They generally want to cut that off as quickly as possible. How do you do that? You close this loophole. So again, the victim mentality exists in Philadelphia. 26 teams use it. That's a lot. That's not just Philadelphia. But yeah, this is another one I've been writing about for years, Pumper. This is happening. And this is a collective bargaining agreement. So I got a bunch of that yesterday. They'll never get it passed with 8 owners. They'll never get 24 votes. Not about that. Not a rule change. This is about collective bargaining. So when they go to 18 games, they have to collectively bargain that with the union. At the same time, the thought around the league is they will try to clean up their own house to limit salaries as much as possible. So again, from a player perspective, from an NFLPA perspective, that's not a good thing. From, for people that like unions, not a good thing. For people that dislike rich people, it'll just play into it. But this is far larger than the Philadelphia Eagles. Got to get over the victim mentality. Got to get over it, Pumper.
John, unfortunately, I agree with you about victim mentality. And here's what I will say to the great people of Birds 365. In life, you can be a victim or you can be a victor, okay?
Let's by the way, the Eagles aren't a victim.
I know. That's what I'm saying. Embrace it. Love it. And overcome it all. So good stuff there, Johnny Mac. But, John, is it fair to say this? The Eagles are the catalyst for a lot of these moves. We used that word last week with the pushing rule. All right. Are the Eagles the catalyst because they have used the voidable years better than anybody, more efficiently than anybody, and they've gotten the most success, at least to the eye, because of these voidable years. You look at our offense and people are like, oh, how do you pay everybody? Well, Howie's great at this. He maneuvers everything. It's not just void years, but it's a big part of it. Is it fair to say the Eagles are the catalyst for this?
No. And this is the reason why. The Eagles have done it most successfully. They didn't do it first. They use it more than anybody else. And they've done it most successfully. But success with contracts, at least from a fan perspective, and I'll bring up my buddy Jimmy Kemsky, who did his top 10 worst contracts in the NFC East. Only one Eagles, you can probably predict who he picked, Bryce Huff. I always tried to explain this to Jody. If you look at it from Bryce Johnson, who's the Jake Rosenberg now, he's the guy in charge of doing the contracts.
Right.
And I forget when Jake left. Jake might have done that contract, but either or, it's one of the two.
Jake left what, last offseason, right?
Yeah. So I forget the timing, but either or, one of those two guys. If you look at it from the perspective of their job, the Eagles don't sign bad contracts. So when they finish that contract, it's a good contract from a Jake Rosenberg perspective or a Bryce Johnson perspective. In other words, they did their job spectacularly, as they usually do.
Right. Once the evaluation of the player was determined, they worked the numbers phenomenally on the contract.
Exactly. So the actual contract from their job description is well done, as it typically is well done in Philadelphia. Where it went south is the evaluation. And that's ultimately, when you're talking about success on the field, it's about evaluation. So if the Eagles use these voidable years and got a bunch of evaluations wrong on these big-time players, they look like shit. But they're all good. So it looks great. So again, victim mentality. Now, the only part where I will say, and the NFL is designed, and this is Kansas City, this is New England, and during their heyday, any good team in this Philadelphia now. The whole system, as I've explained numerous times, is designed to pull them back to the pack and designed to lift up the shittier teams. The whole system.
Right.
So from
that's how it is for whoever's at the top.
Exactly. If the Eagles win the Super Bowl again, we'll be saying a lot of fans will think the same thing next year. That's how it's set up. That's how the NFL set it up purposefully, because they want as many teams relevant as humanly possible. So that part is baked into the system as a whole, and that includes every successful team. Now, is there jealousy around the league of the Eagles? Absolutely. There's jealousy for any successful team. Was there jealousy for Kansas City? Eagles fan couldn't stand it. Oh, they love Kansas City. The officials are for Kansas City for all those years with Tom. Oh, this and it's the same thing with every team. Just, at some point, people got to wake up to that. People complain about successful teams, so take pride in it. But to the original point with Pumper, and I'm sorry to destroy you, Pumper, the league loves the Eagles.
Well, there is something to be said, right?
Because they generate such interest.
There is something to be said, though, about the success that they've had, right? Like, it's one thing for a loophole to exist, but if nobody's exploiting it that well, now people were exploiting it, but the Eagles, I feel like, did it better. I get what you're saying, though. The evaluation is the bigger part of it, but you might not be able to evaluate as many guys on offense if you're not as successful as that, right? Because you can only bring in one wide receiver, or you can't bring in Saquon Barkley after you've paid every other guy.
Ultimately, success on the field is determined by evaluation of players.
Yes, absolutely. I think everybody can agree to that.
So, if Lane Johnson's not Lane Johnson and you packed off these voidable years or Jordan Mailata or A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith or Jalen Hurts, et cetera, and they're not successful players, and you got all this dead money on the back end and they turn into Carson Wentz. If you go back to Carson Wentz, who was at the time, that looked like a brilliant deal. But they, at the time, and that's how quickly, now it looks quaint. But I remember talking about that with Andrew Brandt, who is one of the best in the business when it comes to NFL business. And he was like, there's no way they're going to eat this dead money. No way. No way. And they did. And at the time, they shattered the NFL record. And they were willing to eat it. Now, as I said, as it's expanded from 40 million in 2013 to 2.2 billion, now if the Eagles messed up a bunch of these evaluations, they'd be in deep shit. But they haven't missed. Except
they haven't missed, but
does
this stop you from
have up level?
Yeah, right. Does this stop you though? Like you mentioned Lane Johnson. All right. The reason the void years are so helpful is because they got the Lane Johnson evaluation right, but then they were able to go and sign 3 more offensive linemen who are the same caliber. Now, their evaluation was good, but if you get rid of the void years, are they no longer able to bring in that many good players because they can't exploit that loophole anymore?
Well, in theory, but so everybody's on the same landscape. So those 25 other teams aren't allowed to do it either. So again, and the Eagles have proven this. And I guarantee you Bryce Johnson's already at work trying to find the next loophole. And by the way, it's not like it's happening tomorrow. And it's not like they can do anything about contracts already
right.
existing and approved. This is about whenever the NFL decides, and they've been out early in their TV, they're probably going to take it because the TV money keeps going up and up and up, and they'll open the CBA earlier than expected. And they can open CBA on any aspect tomorrow if they want. They can open up negotiation and try to change things, but they have to get it by the union, and they're going to have to give up some things to get 18 games. They're going to have to give up some things to get voidable years out, and the union will fight this tooth and nail because the whole reason the owners want to get rid of it is because that salaries have exploded and they want to get that down. Yeah, and obviously the union's the exact opposite. So there's a lot of hurdles, but it's got nothing to do with the Philadelphia Eagles. It's got to do with salaries overall in the NFL.
Right, but because they're so good at it, it does have the chance to impact them more than other teams.
Well, again, they've used it better than anybody else, but that
right. But because of that, right, it would affect you a little bit more just because you've gotten the most.
Well, that comes down. But my point of that is they used it better than anybody else. That comes back to evaluation. So if you're still evaluating better than other people in a tweaked system, you're still evaluating better. Right. So to me, the on-field stuff has to do with evaluation.
Good stuff there. One more super chat, and then we'll get to our the great Jeff Kerr coming up here post Memorial Day weekend. JD3 says, J-Mac, hate to break it to you, bud, but you're going to see Harrison Bryant push Jalen Hurts in the end zone every game this season. Most valuable pusher MVP.
Who's sitting? Saquon, Dallas? Who's sitting? Ben Van Sumeren?
There's a couple tush pushes I've seen where Devontae Smith is just standing back there doing nothing. Maybe it's him.
Yeah. How is Harrison Bryant getting on the field? I get the shtick, JD3, but how many snaps? If he makes the team, how many snaps do you think he's playing? I mean, what are we doing here? And as we pull up Jeff Kerr, can we pull up Jeff?
Yeah, I'll pull him up now. Let's bring in Jeff Kerr now from CBS Sports. The great Jeff Kerr joins us here on Birds 365. Follow him at Jeff Kerr CBS.
I'm going to make this simple, and Jeff is our stat guy, stat expert. There are 17 games in the regular season, correct, Jeff?
That would be correct.
And how many times did the Eagles run the tush push last year?
92.
92. Now, is that through the
Sorry, that's for 3 years.
Yeah, that's
hold
for
on.
3 years.
Yeah, 38. I think 38 was regular season, and when you count the postseason, it ended up being 48 or 49.
Yeah.